I'm Mark Patey, and I'm glad you made the decision to buy a Tugs Alpha. You're going to love it. This video has one primary goal, and that's to go over some tips and tricks to make your experience with this tug as pleasant and easy as possible. So let's point out some of the obvious features you already know. These are interchangeable. You can change that out, so as your aircraft flying decisions change over time, we're never really on our last aircraft. We think we are, but you never know. But we may as well be on our last tug. So this thing's made to be changed out simply with a pin, no tools required. These ends adjust and just turn in and out simply by pulling a pin, no tools required. It's a neat feature we patented. I want to point out the inside diameter is your 1/2 inch diameter. It's the most common size for grabbing a male pin on most aircraft. The outside diameter of that is the most common for those that are a female fitting, or just basically a hole that this is going to plug into and it rests against the shoulder. So for example, a Cessna TTX, this outside shoulder will catch it, no adapters needed. Inside picks up a Cirrus, a bunch of other airplanes, and then we have other adapters that will plug in here. We'll show you here at the end, so you can move things like a J3 Cub, for example, or a Super Cub, a Carbon Cub, or other Piper aircraft, virtually any aircraft. We've got adapters that plug in here, and there's a little locking clip in here that locks in. So when you're setting it up for your airplane, a couple things to notice. This front mechanism can pivot side to side like this. I have a spot for this pin. That is simply, this forward spot is simply storage. This can still pivot. If your aircraft doesn't work well with pivoting, you put that pin here and that's locked centered. And now you can use this tug like other tugs where you have to pick it up, turn it, set it down. For most aircraft, you'll find that the design of this, it's the first tug where not only can you pull with pivot, but you can actually push. It takes a little bit of practice. It's kind of like backing a trailer, but you move your airplane in and out of your hangar a few times, you will love the fact you don't have to keep picking up and setting down the tug. So this is the locked position. Forward is the unlocked position, allows for pivot. The tug does have a transmission with a differential, so the tires allow you to pivot freely left and right. Well, this pivots freely on the aircraft, so there's no skidding tires, there's no fighting or wrestling with your aircraft or tug. Another neat thing that we've built into the Tugs Alpha that's going to make your life easier. So that's it. First thing you want to do is get it set up for your aircraft. So you're going to set these ends in. The goal is to have this end and this end look the same. This would be wrong. Something like this would be right. But what we want to do is set it up for an aircraft. So we're going to leave one side open a little bit. We're going to open our handle and we're going to drive it up to the aircraft. Here's a big tip. It's fun to drive this tug with the power on. I just push the lever forward and back. It works great. And you'll be tempted to drive up to your airplane and attach it by using the throttle. This is not the easiest way to do it, because you're trying to make a computer move really, really small, which this will do and you'll get good at. But until you're good at it, turn the tug off, because the tug can move real easy. It's nice and slow at any speed, and you can hook onto your aircraft effortlessly. Now, if you don't turn the tug off, if you drive the tug up to the aircraft under power and stop, it will not move, because this tug has auto braking and auto throttles. And so if the power's on and you're not telling the tug to move forward or back, it's going to lock the transmission and say, I'm in park, which is a great feature when you're pulling an airplane out of the hangar and you let off the throttle. Unlike other tugs, you're not trying to stop your airplane or pick up the tug to stop the tires from driving. It's particularly problematic when you're pushing an airplane into the hangar and it's going, and then you get close to the back of the hangar. Other tugs, you pick them up so the tug doesn't crash it in. You pick it up so the tires will slow down. This tug, you don't have to do that. The auto throttles will reverse the torque and stop the aircraft. But now I can't move it. So for hooking up to your aircraft, go ahead and turn the power off. Then you can move the tug right up nice and easy. Attach the one side, close the arm on the other side. Be careful that you don't scratch your wheel pan. The first time you do this, it's sometimes easier to have someone helping you hold the other end of the handle, but you can push this down, pull that handle, and I'm going to dial that in to a size. Now the important thing is that that pin will drop, but I want this to sit tight. So I'm going to go ahead and open the handle, pull the pressure off that pin, and now that pin's dropped. And now we're going to give it a shot and close it and make sure it grabs nice and tight. and I think it's going to work out perfect. So now we close that handle, and now we've grabbed onto the aircraft. We've got a good secure hold. All right, now that we've got the forks on tight, there's no play here, there's no slop, that's what we want. The handle, the over center, when it locks on, it's a very positive click, a very positive lock. I'm going to be moving the Cirrus. I like to have this pin just in the stored position, meaning I can steer the tug with the tug on the ground. Now, the biggest problem we see people fight with all dragger style tugs is traction. This is inherent with any tug that's dragging an airplane, as opposed to taking the nose wheel and setting it on the tug to provide traction. Dragger style tugs simply don't do well in snow. They don't do well on really slippery surfaces. That's a limitation of dragger style tugs. One of the best ways to help you with that issue is don't just stab at the throttle. This throttle can be moved just a fraction of an inch and go real slow, or you can go full throttle. The throttle will ramp up from slow to fast over a curve. If you just floor it because it's not going quick enough, it's not going to change how quick the tire ramps up, because we want to keep it ramping up slow. So if you stab at the throttle, the tires are going to peel out, they're going to bounce, the plane's not going to move. So the biggest tip is less is more. So just give it a little bit of throttle. You are the traction. So I'm going to push down on this a little bit. Of course, depending on the surface, I might need to push down more or less. But I'll push down and give it throttle and give it just a little bit. I'll let off, it stops the aircraft. You can see the brakes kicked in. I'm going to pull. I'm just going to push down, give just a little bit of throttle. I can get more throttle if I want to go fast. And this tug's going to go pretty quick. Before I run over with my cameraman, I'm going to let the auto throttle slow the plane down and stop. So there's the forward and reverse. When you're steering, pulling the aircraft is really easy. It's very natural. Just keep the tug on the ground, steer where you want to go, and it'll come all the way around. It'll come underneath your prop, and I can get this plane turning almost on its own spot. Right now at this point, that inside tire isn't going anywhere. We're pivoting on a dime. So it's very maneuverable, it's very quick, but again, less is more, slower is easier. Now when you're pushing an aircraft with this style, you are going to love not picking up the tug and setting it down. The other thing that does is it prevents you from picking up a tug, having a tire speed up, the airplane slows down, you put the tug down, and it drives all that energy into your nose gear and causes stress. Our tug's a little smarter than that. If you did pick it up, the computer will sense that and it won't let the tire speed up. At least that way you're not damaging your nose gear when you set it back down. But the best way to do it is just get used to backing this like you back a trailer. If I want to push it, you turn opposite of where you want the aircraft to go. Now don't let it get too far away from you, turn it a little bit, and then go ahead and straighten out the tug with the tire. And then you can turn it back. It takes a few feet of movement for that to come back around straight, and now I can push it straight again. Now, if you go too far and you get the nose wheel kind of jackknifed, it's just like a boat trailer or any other trailer. You pull forward a little bit and then go backwards again. Now, this, to make a 90-degree turn into a hanger, can be done very easily, leaving the tug right on the ground the whole time, never picking it up, never setting it down, and just go nice and slow. My biggest suggestion is to practice with it, because you can make it do anything you want. You can see how quickly I can make it turn, I can bring it back around and forward, but it just takes practice. Again, forward is easy, it's fast, don't let it run you over. This tug here is the Alpha Plus. It has the bigger, faster motor. I don't think you want to go any faster than that moving your airplane. This thing's amazing. But again, biggest tip, just barely push the throttle and you won't have it spinning and bouncing and jumping up and down on you. There you go. All right, we're going to move a Cub now. We've got the standard forks on here. We just finished moving a Cirrus with it. This was kind of a setting for the Cirrus, was right in here. I know that for the Cub, it's going to be about right here. You want to set it up for your aircraft. And here's our adapters. We have these in all different types. They have a little bearing in there that catches a lip on the inside to hold them in place. And they have this plastic here to protect the nut on your tail wheel so that this takes the abuse instead of your aircraft. So we get that set up. Like loading this on any aircraft, you'll be tempted to drive it on and off by using the throttle. We actually recommend you drive it up to your aircraft and then turn the power off so you can just push it by hand. You have a lot more control for loading, unloading, just by hand. And then crank that down until it's locked. You want a positive lock, you don't want any slop, any play. And then you can turn the tug on and drive. I like moving any aircraft with the Bravo tug or any dragger style tug. We are the traction. They don't weigh enough to push a big heavy airplane. So a little bit of down pressure is all you need to help that tug out. Now I've got this pin in the unlocked position, meaning in the front, so this can pivot. And so I can steer in any direction with that there. If I want, I can lock the pin back here, and now the tug's locked and it can only push and pull straight. In this case, you would have to pick the tug up to redirect or steer. I don't like doing that. That's old school, that's a pain in the butt, it hurts my shoulders. I like to leave that pinned right there. And then when you're pushing the aircraft, you drive it like you're pushing a trailer. You can steer any way you want. You kind of a little bit of reverse steering. You'll get used to it. It's easy to make tight turns and go places. When you're pulling the aircraft, you just steer it. You never have to pick the tug up because it pivots and has a differential. The tug's pretty quick. You don't need to go as fast as the tug does. Just slow down. So get into your hangar. This motor will give you all available torque, even at 1 RPM on the tire. So if I just barely have that tire barely cranking like that, it still has all the torque. It can pull over bumps and dips as long as you've got the traction for it. So there you go, there's the Alpha tug. I've played with this tug and was tempted to move this aircraft a little different by locking this and picking up the back of the aircraft like that. And then I have all kinds of traction moving the airplane around. But I only show this to you because you may be tempted to do that. The math doesn't work. It's a lot of strain on the tug. We recommend you don't do that. And it actually is easier just to leave this pin unlocked and let the aircraft follow you around. And leave the tug on the ground. Don't pick anything up. Just drive like that. So there's the Alpha tug, moving a tail dragger. It'll move just about everything. Hope that's helpful. Other tips, make sure you turn it off. If you leave the tug turned on or the light turned on, turn off both switches. If you leave it turned on, the batteries will go dead. I know that's a shocker, but sadly, we all have done it. But this is just like your aircraft. If you leave the master switch on and come back to the airport days later, your battery's not only dead, you're probably gonna have to replace it. The tug's no different. Turn off the power when you're done using it, and you're good to go.